Working on it. There we go. Okay, I'm going to screen share. Can y'all see? And trippy.
Oh, weird.
Can you guys see?
Yeah, we can see it.
Anyone? Okay, great.
You muted me. Did you mute me on purpose?
Oh, no. Do I have the power to mute other people?
Popping up, so you can't see her screen share.
Oh, I see.
Is everybody here? This is strange. Okay, so I'll just scroll through. So here's Harry's. The feedback was basically just the summary, not all the rest. Mine, same thing. And then like this is how long my summary is.
Oh, okay.
Courtney's, she said not exactly a case summary. And then Cassie's closer to what one would include in a summary.
Okay.
One thing I noticed is a few of the like just factual details seem to be inconsistent between all of us.
That's not good.
Like, I mean, but it's confusing because the original case is like just sprawling.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as like how many reports were made is one number that is inconsistent, and then the diagnoses. Because I remember when I first went through this and made like back just before the role plays, I made like a timeline to try to help myself like be able to conceptualize it, and put some of the details like for diagnoses in a corner, and one of them was bipolar. But then when I scanned through the other night trying to look, I couldn't find the mention of bipolar. But some of us had that, so it must be in here somewhere.
Yeah, she's been diagnosed. It's on the first page of the case study. So she has been diagnosed at different times with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, major depression, and epilepsy. But then later on, they mostly just focus on her.
Oh, right, it is on the first page. But yeah, when they say in the textbook, it was like you should say like who diagnosed or like when things came from. And so we have for the schizophrenia and depression, we have like we can point to a time when that diagnosis happened, and for bipolar we can't. That's just something that I noticed. And then
right, and I think like
go ahead.
Like for mine, and I think the reason that she pointed out that I didn't like specify her needs and things is because I thought like the summary would be like less detailed because we've already gone over like all the specifics. So I didn't really like make it very detailed. But I mean, does that make sense? So in general, I just like didn't have a lot of detail. But then you all had more, obviously. Then some of the details got a little confused.
Yeah. I mean, it seems logical to me since Cassie's got the feedback of this is closer to what one would include in a summary, that we should build from there.
Okay.
Or like start from there to revise. Does that sound reasonable to people?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
What if you want to like take a minute and read this quietly to ourselves or read it out loud so we can get everybody's, like, if anything sticks out as confusing or maybe inaccurate or something we need to elaborate on, we can comment on it.
And I have it open too, so if there's things I can just add into it right now, if that makes it easier, and then I can submit it.
I mean, I have it open as well, but yeah.
Can you edit what you've got open, Carrie?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Out loud or silently, y'all?
Sorry, can you read it out loud? Because I have no way of seeing it, and it keeps
Oh, right, because if I'm not speaking the loudest, it's not going to show up big or something. Okay. Yes. Okay. Andrea R. is a 27-year-old woman who was referred to our agency for case management services. She lives with her 9-year-old son, Vincent, in their own apartment. Vincent is currently in foster care as a result of a CPS case following a hospital admission for Andrea. This was due to an overdose of Zoloft, which occurred while Vincent was at home. Andrea is concerned about getting Vincent back into her care, which is her primary goal at this time. She's aware that she will need to meet the criteria put forth by the courts in order to do so. While she does have some mental health concerns, which have resulted in hospitalizations, her overall physical health is good. She is currently under the psychiatric care of Dr. D, which is an ongoing relationship of 2 years. He was unaware of the latest admission to the hospital, although recommended that Vincent be returned to her care as he does not believe she is a danger to Vincent. There have been 5 reports made to CPS between 2001 to 2007, although the claims were unfounded. This prior involvement contributes to Andrea's concerns in regards to meeting requirements to getting Vincent back. Andrea has a good co-parenting relationship with Vincent's father, John, who is involved with his son and aware of the current situation. She also has relationships with her mother and sister and is able to call on them to care for Vincent as needed. They are not able to keep him at this time due to their current living arrangements. Andrea keeps a clean home and receives certain supports from the state, i.e. food stamps, SSI, and cash assistance. Her self-determination and resilience are evident in that she continues to work towards bettering herself in order to get her son back regardless of hurdles along the way. Vincent reports that he has a close relationship with his mother and that she takes good care of him. While the psychiatrist stated that Angela was taking medications as prescribed, this may not currently be the case. It would be beneficial to gain a better understanding of Angela's medication management as well as barriers that may be limiting her ability to take her medication, cost, transportation, overall access. Her limited social support could also be a factor in her repeat hospitalizations in that she does not have many close relationships other than Vincent.
Thank you. Sorry that was long.
No, that's great.
Okay, so then we build from there. We just want to edit that?
Yeah. So I'm going to unscreen share since that didn't really work the way we imagined anyway. And at least Cassie and I both have it open.
Thanks for trying.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry.
I think that's a great overall. I think that's a great summary and puts the most important parts in there. I am curious just about aside from the slight factual discrepancies that many of us had, also, I know we're supposed to identify strengths, but also it seemed like in the examples we read, there wasn't a lot of hypothesizing. Mm-hmm. But that's part of how we're supposed to use this, is it helps us formulate hypothesis and helps us notice things that may be absent or need intervention. So I totally agree with these last 2 sentences about needing to understand her medication management better and looking into her social supports and her limited social supports. I just don't know what in a case summary or an assessment summary is normal to include.
I think it was kind of wanting to focus on what we identified as the problem areas when we met the last time. So I kind of listened to our video again and just jotted stuff down, which I didn't really, I obviously didn't focus on all of the things we touched on because I know we had 5 at one point, but so I was thinking we could pull, if you guys had other ideas of issue areas that we wanted to identify that were concerning, then we could add those in, as well as if there's additional strings we wanted to add in. If there's stuff that seems wrong in that, it's confusing because at one point I thought I read like Dr. D was with her for a year and that's where I started, and then I read it was 2 years, and
Yes.
then he was the therapist, but I was just, I was confused. So I just kind of BS'd it. I'm not going to lie. I really followed the example that she gave us in that second. I just mute myself mid-sentence. No big deal. That example she gave us about the older woman that was living at home, I think it showed like 2 different examples, one with bullet points and then one that was in paragraph form. And I really just kind of tried to follow what was listed there and plug in Andrea's stuff instead. So
that's great.
Yeah. So whatever you guys think,
Another thing that I realized after I had submitted mine already, because I obviously had not finished all the case or all our coursework yet by last night. So this morning I was like watching the suicide assessment stuff, and in mine I have like, it's unclear whether her overdose was a suicide attempt or not, and like I feel like we need to address that at like either pretending we have had that conversation and have more information or say something about it.
In the case study that it was a suicide attempt.
It does say that in the case study. And then that video that she put up with the other group that she asked us to watch, did you guys get a chance to watch that like section? She mentioned when she met with us the last time that she was going to post that link to the other group. So she was talking with them, and in that she says, we don't really know if she did try to kill herself or not, even though the case study says that. She was talking about like people don't feel good and they take their medications and it doesn't seem to help. So think a little bit more. And so that's why I didn't necessarily specifically say suicide attempt, because it's conflicting with what's in the case study and then what also she's saying to other groups. So I didn't really want to specify. And then she kind of addresses like the barriers of why people stop taking medication. And she's like, the main one was poverty, access, transportation, ability to pay. That's also why I put that in there too. So I was confused also because the case study does say suicide attempt, and then what she mentioned to that other group was she didn't feel good, and so she took more. She was unhappy, so she took more. Accidental overdose, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, because in the case study it says Dr. H reported. I found it now. Dr. H reported she overdosed on Zoloft the night before because an attempt to kill herself because she was depressed, lonely, and overwhelmed, along with having conflict with both internal and external family members. Dr. H also reported she was hospitalized for schizophrenia in January 2007 at another hospital.
Okay, so
there's one doctor. That's important. I feel like to notice that is
because in the beginning of that, it just says that the allegation is a psychiatrist from the hospital called saying the mother overdosed on Zoloft last night and was brought.
Right.
So it doesn't specifically say that until later on. So,
right.
Someone else reporting that, what they think that might not be the case, I'm guessing.
Well, doesn't she say, Cassie, I'm with you. I watched the video that you mentioned, and I did the same thing. I stayed away from referring to it as suicide. And didn't it say also in the case report that Andrea reported that she took the pills because she was feeling lonely and depressed, but not necessarily more than that? Or am I making that up? Does anybody else recall?
Well, no, it says, it's confusing how it's written because it's one sentence where it says, Dr. H reports da-da-da-da-da-da, and then the next sentence is, Andrea took the medication in an attempt to kill herself because she was depressed, lonely, and overwhelmed, yada, yada, yada. But that is in a whole section about Dr. H, so I think that's coming from Dr. H. I do think it's ambiguous, but I do think, we need to state that it's ambiguous. If we're saying there's an overdose, because then that tells us that we would need to do further suicide, further assessment about that.
Yeah, potentially. I definitely got the impression from, I don't know if anybody besides Cassie watched the video that Sarah
I
posted.
watched it
Okay.
too.
I definitely got the impression that she didn't want us to call it a suicide attempt, but I could have been misinterpreting that.
I'm not saying we should call it a suicide attempt. I'm saying that we should say we're unclear, or it is unclear whether it was a
Sure.
suicide attempt.
Sure.
Yeah, I
I
like
agree.
that, Carrie. Like you were saying, we can like further investigate with her or discuss what the reasoning behind that might have been as part of the plan.
So what if we just, Cassie, do you want to add a sentence after this was due to an overdose of Zoloft, which occurred while Vincent was home?
Mhm.
It is unclear whether the overdose
Was a suicide attempt.
was a suicide attempt.
That makes sense to me.
And then should we comment on that farther down? Where it's kind of discussed about the barriers to her medication, limited social support, and then should we address discussing that? Or do we just leave it as it's unclear if it's a suicide attempt?
Yeah, maybe right after you say gain a better understanding of her medication management, as well as like the context, like what was occurring during that time when the overdose on Zoloft occurred. Something like that. How are you, Harry?
In life,
Yeah,
I'm tired, but I'm good. Thanks for asking. I'm sorry that I was late.
yeah, that's okay.
I find this assignment actually pretty engaging and interesting. So at least there's that.
Yeah, it's cool. I wish that, we had a clearer idea that it was just the summary part and not the whole thing. But at least, yeah, it's cool that it's the same case we're role playing with, so it's feels more useful.
I said it would also be important to discuss what was occurring at the time of her overdose of Zoloft and if further discussion of suicidality is warranted. Is that right? How you do that?
Yeah.
Does that sound okay to everybody?
Mhm.
Okay.
That makes sense to me.
I was wondering about if you wanted to make this a Google Doc so we could look at it, or just let you go for it.
I'm happy to do that.
It's hard. I don't think I could follow auditorily too long.
Nope, that's okay. Let me share it to you guys right now.
Okay. Then I'm going to close Word because
Can I ask a question that maybe folks can? I'm still like, I'll be honest, I'm still a little bit confused about this assignment. And I looked at the examples that were in the two sources. I think I get like 80% of it. The one thing I'm confused about, and it looks like Carrie, you and I looked like we used the same format from that first example. And then on mine, she wrote, don't need the data section. And on yours, she wrote, only need the summary. I don't know what that means.
just the last section,
Just the
like
last section.
the formulation.
That's
or,
it. So none of the other.
Right.
None
We
of
didn't
the,
have to do the whole rest of it.
Got it. Wow. Okay.
I know.
It's pretty much the same stuff. This formulation just
It
summarizes.
is. Just kind of. Yeah.
I thought the whole
Yeah.
thing was a summary, but okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's good.
Yep.
news.
Yep.
Good news for assignment 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, Victor is staying with, or Vincent. Vincent is staying with Andrea's sister, right?
No.
No.
I thought he was this whole
He's-
time.
He's in state custody.
Was he staying with her at some point?
Yeah, yours a couple
Yeah.
years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And
He's
Andrea
awesome.
wanted him to stay with her this time, but it couldn't happen.
I knew he couldn't stay with her mom, but I thought he could stay.
There is. So right now in the summary, it looks like we have some mental health concerns, but we don't actually name, Cassie's summary doesn't actually name the diagnoses yet.
I didn't name those because in the it said not to. It said
Oh,
not
really?
to. Yeah, let me pull this up. I think in the sample assessment summaries, it was talking about writing the summary, remembering your audience, focus on functioning.
Which thing is this? Because I thought I looked at everything and it doesn't, that's not ringing a bell.
This is the under week 5.
Mm-hmm.
Week 5. Underneath it, so it says like chapter 9, and then it's Andrea's case study, and then it says sample assessment summaries. I just brought that up. I'm pretty sure in there it said like don't label them based on their diagnosis. Or I read it in chapter 9. It was one of the two, which is why I didn't specifically say. Oh yeah. Let's see. So remembering your audience, which is on the 3rd page of that completing the assessment, the summary part. Looks like the 2nd paragraph. It's like, given that the client, family, or others may be reading your records, you are probably careful about avoiding potentially offensive terms and language. Beyond this, though, it is more helpful to describe behavior or other characteristics than to label them. So, for example, writing, the client has border personality disorder does not explain much about the client, and it may disguise a personal judgment about how difficult you find her to work with. Almost any statement that uses a stereotype, diagnosis, or category to explain the client's behavior suggests that you haven't seen the client as an individual. In describing the client in the summary, the point is to mention behavior that has a direct bearing on your mutual ability to work together. So
I do feel like, yeah, I mean, I hear that. I do feel like the fact that sometimes she has like talked to people that are not there is behavior that's relevant. And
absolutely.
The fact that she has diagnoses that may be conflicting, and the fact that she's experienced so many diagnoses over the years also indicates that she has had inconsistent care.
Yes, I agree with that.
Or hints that maybe that might be possible.
Yes. I think too, you mentioned about like her hearing things that weren't there. I think that one of the ideas too of the summary was to focus on what was happening within this recent hospitalization, and that wasn't the case. I don't believe so, that it was that she was hearing like hearing voices, or like voices told her to take the pills or anything like that. So that was another reason why I didn't mention that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oops.
Hi, you all know obviously
Sarah.
that I'm here.
No, I didn't know. Hi, Sarah.
Did you have your screen turned off?
No, I just didn't look. I guess I didn't notice.
Oh.
An extra little box.
Actually, I mean, the conversation that you're having is exactly what I want you to talk about is, what do you all think should be in there in terms of, just based on what I said. And the biggest thing in your group is, I don't know how many of you did way more work on this than you needed to.
Yeah.
So all you're going to do is give that final case summary, case formulation, that one to, I think I said 1 to 2 paragraphs. I mean, if some, and really focusing on she's coming to you to sort of help her with what's going on in her life right now. So just thinking about including things that are relevant to your work with her in terms of what you would do right now. And yeah, Cassie was saying, somebody says she might have heard voices. That's probably not relevant now. And actually, I would argue that it may not be relevant at all, because it's sort of hearsay. Like, what does it really mean? she looked like she was hearing voices. Well, if she's got a seizure disorder, you don't know what kind of seizure disorder she's got. She's taking certain kinds of medications that actually might make her look spacey or look like she's attending to something. So I think you got to be really careful about sort of labels and ways you construct, what you convey. But so again, I'm basically going to be here briefly just to sort of say, some of you did do some summaries, some of you did a whole biopsychosocial and a summary. All I care about is the summary and coming together and you all deciding what do you think should be in there, and then getting it written up and getting it to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you feedback on all the groups and probably show you what I would consider to be the best models. I mean, and there's no grade on this one. It's more about you practicing and then being able to get my feedback on it. And I might be able to say, oh, group one, I really liked, I like the way they framed this, but I like what group three did in this area, so that you can begin to sort of get a sense of what would a professional summary look like. What you don't want to do is to just list a bunch of data. You really, this is where you're taking all that data and you're saying, here's how I make sense out of that. Here's how I make sense out of it given we're working on. So, is there mental health diagnosis relevant? It may or may not be, depending on how you construct it. And again, I'm not looking for any right way of doing it. You all could write it in a certain way where you focus on one issue, and that's not going to be the critique. The critique is going to be just, does this reflect a professional assessment, no matter where you're anchoring your assessment.
Question, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Based on what you said about the mental health labels, we're working off of Cassie's, and she has this sentence in here that says, while she does have some mental health concerns which have resulted in hospitalizations, her overall physical health is good. That seems to me to be a pretty good sentence that sort of summarizes it, but doesn't go into diagnoses or labels. Do you agree?
Yeah, I probably, and this is why I'm saying, some of it's a judgment call. You might want to articulate a little bit more about, that she reports the depression is the most significant issue, so that the diagnosis of bipolar and schizophrenia, who knows what to make of that, because they're mutually exclusive. I mean, but what does seem most current now is her talking about feeling depressed and lonely. And so I think you can, let's just say this was, she had just come out of the hospital and she was referred to you, and the discharging physician gave her a diagnosis of major depressive disorder, you would probably include that. But you would say something like, the discharge papers from such and such note major depressive disorder, as a way of, not saying she's depressed or anything, but just saying somebody is giving her that label and it's relevant to today. Mm-hmm. But I think more generically, like, she struggled with mental health issues in the past, and currently she identifies as, depression as one of her biggest issues. That I think is important. Other thoughts or questions? Okay.
That was the same question I had. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, I'm gonna leave you all. I'll see you later. And one other thing, the sooner you can get it to me, the better. I realized that I made a mistake in putting the deadline for these a week from Sunday, because literally that means I got to turn them around rapidly, and you don't have time to look at them. You've only got a week before your assignment is due, your assignment one. So getting them to me sooner rather than later would be great, because then I can turn them around rapidly and make sure you have, 2 weeks.
Our plan was to do it tonight or tomorrow.
That would be great. So. Yeah. And I can give your group, I'll give your group individual feedback, and then hopefully I can get a lot of them in early and you can see all of them.
Great.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So I just added in, after her overall physical health is good, she reports her depression is the most concerning issue for her at this time. And then it goes on to say that she's currently under the psychiatric care of Dr. D, if that works for you guys. You all can see the working doc, right?
Yeah, I'm going into it right now. I do feel like...
Do you think it's important?
You go ahead, Harry.
I wonder if it's important to also include the piece about loneliness, or if we're just going to lump that into depression. Because she did say, that's her quotes are lonely and depressed.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
But just curious, it seems pretty relevant to her situation. But
That's true. And I do think mentioning that this doctor who was attending to her at this most recent hospitalization indicated symptoms of depression. Because I don't know, it's hard to not much about the role play as a reality in this case.
Yeah.
But I don't know if she would name her depression as the primary thing or her not having her child as a primary thing. And like depression, her feeling depressed is like her maybe biggest personal internal issue. But like the problem she's trying to solve externally seems all about getting her son back.
Should we say, like, kind of following that, this may be due to her focusing on the placement of her son or something like that? Or do you want to mention the doctor?
I think we should mention the doctor because if we didn't mention the doctor and she was just saying she was depressed, then a potential intervention would be like officially getting her seen by a physician in case she needed medication, right? But like we already have a doctor saying that she already has been prescribed. So that's already a resource she has.
Oh, and by the way, you said you weren't sure if it was for 2 years, and it does say that the doctor confirmed he had been seeing Andrea for 2 years.
Okay.
That's right. I think we should include the doctor in there.
Are you working on that, Carrie? Oh, let's see.
No, I'm just scanning through. I'm finally in the document. So I would say she reports feeling depressed and lonely. And then maybe semicolon, okay, and then it goes, she's currently under the psychiatric care of Dr. D is the not in the hospital doctor. Okay, so she reports feeling depressed and lonely. Dr. H, who attended to her during this most recent hospitalization, identified or issued a diagnosis of major depressive disorder. Does that sound good?
Yeah. It was going to be really impressive if you could type all that out while you were saying it. I was like, how is she doing this?
No.
Yes.
I don't know how word choicey we want to be.
I don't think it's necessary to be two-word choicey in this particular
Okay.
assignment. But
Are there any other strengths you want to mention at all?
I was just thinking, I was reading this sentence about she's aware that she will need to meet the criteria put forth by the courts in order to do so. And wondering if, I'm curious what your all's perspective is, but my perspective is that not only is she aware of it, but she's actually willing to do whatever it takes to take care of herself and get Vincent back. And so maybe highlighting that as part of that sentence, or.
And maybe to be more specific, like what she's doing, because she's visiting the supervised visit as well.
Yeah. She's really motivated and engaged.
So, like, she is aware of the criteria put forth by the courts in order to regain custody of her son, and is
motivated,
like, taking consistent steps, or is like already taking steps.
Sure.
I did say that her self-determination and resilience are evident, and that she continues to work towards bettering that whole sentence down this paragraph
Yes,
too.
you did. I think we can also say that up here, and then
Yeah, for sure.
okay. Whereas, demonstrated a commitment to attending
Totally had the wrong name there. Thanks, Harry.
No worries. That's how I'm like.
Oh, Angela. Oh, I said it over here too.
I kept
I
calling Victor in lines.
yeah.
Bad.
Again, the number of CPS reports, I feel like, is inconsistent.
Yeah, it's inconsistent. I think it was like her sister said like 3 to 4 or something, or.
And there's some.
Was that hospitalizations? I don't even know.
It says that there have been 5 prior reports dating from 2001 to January 2017 against the family. So
because one was John when Victor was staying at his house. And I don't think it's a big deal probably in the assessment, because she may or may, if they were all unfounded, like, were they all investigated? So would she be aware of all of them?
Yeah.
And I don't know. My gut is like, I don't know. Certainly any prior involvement with CPS would be stressful and probably add to current concerns. But since everything else was unfounded. I guess the sentence, if I were writing this by myself, probably, I would delete this sentence about this prior involvement contributes to her concern, and right after the prior reports thing, I would put the sentence about, like, overall, she has, like, she has been the primary caregiver of Vincent throughout his life, and, like, kept him safe and healthy. And even her mom and sister, who don't have, like, a very warm relationship with her, I don't know, I guess that was a little bit confusing too, but in general, it seems like they express support for her parenting when she is well.
And I guess I would kind of argue that I think that if just to me, since we're kind of, what is she like, what's most concerning to her, obviously, is getting Vincent back. And then what might cause her additional anxiety about that might be the fact that, this like involvement in the system, which we kind of talked about when we met last time, that there have been these other claims against her, that they kind of, 5 reports in 6 years or whatever, however many reports in 6 years is quite a bit. To have people kind of investigating you, looking into your case, maybe making accusations, that sort of thing. So I just thought that might contribute to her overall well-being, and trying to move forward with all of this would be, oh great, here I am again. Now they have him. He's now in foster care.
And
like that whole thing.
Yeah, that makes sense, Cassie. And just adds to her overall, like, maybe influencing her relationship with that system. And so that might cue us into the idea of, like, we need to work extra hard on building trust with her. That's a really good point. I think that would be really important, because I'm sure she's probably hesitant. Like, okay, one more case manager looking over my stuff. Harper, don't. Cool. Okay, so let's leave that sentence.
Let's see. Are there any more
I would take off, this is at the end, but I would take off if, and just say further discussion of suicidality is warranted.
Okay.
Okay, what were you going to say, Cassie?
I was just going to ask if you guys had any other thoughts to add to that last paragraph. We talked about medication management, social support. We talked about, I don't have that. I don't have our like survey summary up in front of me, but is there anything else you guys would think?
So strengths, we had relationship with son, resilient, positive relationship with Vincent's dad, basic needs met, SSI SNAP housing, relationship with sister and mom, self-determination, which I think is all covered in the summary.
Okay.
In challenges and barriers, we had being CPS involved, which we have, poverty, limited financial resources, limited social support, possible history of abuse. We don't have in here, but I don't think, based on what Sarah just said, I think that is not like the presenting issue, so might not be relevant.
Okay.
And in fact could, depending on who's reading the case notes, that could like put her as a victim, or that could make some people make some judgments about her.
Yeah, especially for case management services too. I don't think that would necessarily be relevant. If we were doing therapy, that might be, trauma might be something to discuss, but I don't necessarily think that would be for case management.
Yes. And then medication management and strained relationship with service providers. So I actually think we covered, like, in this section, it covers all of our main strengths and barriers, except for the ones we don't think are relevant to this.
Relevant. Yeah, I think it looks really good.
I agree.
All right. Ship it.
Okay.
Get
Carrie,
it off.
do you mind doing that, since you have to upload the Hangout
Video?
also?
Yep. Sure.
All right. And I think we are good to go.
All right. Good job, everybody.
Awesome.
Nice
Thank
work.
you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Bye. Have a good trip, Harry.
Thanks so much. Y'all have a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Go Cubs. All right. Good night.
Bye.